Ahoy there, fellow sailors! Welcome aboard to another thrilling episode where we embark on a journey to master the art of defensive sailing. When the battle rages and you find yourself facing insurmountable odds, it's easy to feel lost and overwhelmed. But fret not, for in this video I'll be your trusted captain, guiding you through the treacherous waters of tactical warfare. In the world of naval warfare, knowing how to react when the shooting starts and you're outmatched can be the difference between victory and defeat. Many players find it challenging to understand their ship's roles and how they fit into the grand scheme of naval warfare. And that's why in this guide, we're not only going to equip you with the knowledge and strategies needed to avoid these perilous situations, but also help you understand your ship's role in the grand scheme of naval warfare. I will teach you how to think with defensive aggression. We'll explore the principles of defensive sailing from maintaining awareness to executing evasive maneuvers. I'll share tips on using cover, positioning your ship, and maximizing your capabilities. We'll also delve into the importance of teamwork, communication, and coordinated tactics to turn the tide of the battle in your favor. Not only will you be well equipped with the skills and knowledge to navigate through the chaos of warfare, but you'll also have an understanding of where your ship fits into the hierarchy. Hit that like button to confirm your commitment, hoist the anchors, secure the deck, and let's prepare to set sail. To be an effective naval captain, you have to have the basics of war ingrained into your mind. It's more than just being a single unit on an evolving battlefield. As a warship, you are a military asset that is capable of projecting lots of power. And so therefore every captain should know the principles of war. And they are, know your objective. Seize, retain, and exploit the initiative through offensives. Consider the power that you have and apply it at a decisive place and time. Allocate your power to secondary efforts where available. Maneuver. Place the enemy in a disadvantaged position through flexible application of your power. Unity of command. Ensure unity of effort with your other warships. Security. Never permit the enemy to acquire an advantage. And surprise. Strike the enemy at a place or time in a manner which he is unprepared. And simplicity. Prepare clear, uncomplicated plans and be concise in your actions. So if we take all those principles and mash them together, we can recognize that a warship is capable of being aggressive, but it also must be mindful of what it's capable of and where it should apply that power. You need to be able to measure yourself against the enemy and determine whether you are capable of doing something in a direct fight or whether you need to change your tactics and apply pressure somewhere else. If we extend those principles into actual strategy, especially thinking along the lines of defense, we can try things such as the boxing maneuver, which is a multiple flank on all sides on the enemy. We could use choke points or strategic geography, usually in narrow areas, to concentrate the enemy into those areas. There's defense in depth, which is the strategy to delay the enemy and prevent their advance by buying time and causing additional casualties. With this strategy, you're giving up space in exchange for slowing the momentum of your enemy. Then there's elastic defense, which is to flexibly absorb the enemy and then repel them through a carefully planned fighting position. And then finally, my favorite is the Fabian strategy, wearing down the enemy by using attrition, indirection, and avoiding pitched battles or frontal assaults. And then of course there is withdrawal, to retreat while maintaining contact with the enemy. Now if you're thinking, what the hell are you talking about, Ty? Well, I've simplified it and I'll put it into a bunch of rules applicable to naval. Rule number 1, always stay vigilant. Keep your eyes peeled, check your minimap, and be prepared for anything. Rule number 2, embrace the smokescreen. When the heat is on, deploy your smokescreen and hide from your enemy. That will buy you precious time to repair and realign your guns. Rule number 3, dance with the waves. Zigzagging maneuvers can make your ship a slippery target, evading enemy shells and keeping you in the game. Rule number 4, teamwork makes waves. Coordinate your attacks, share information, and watch your team's synergy shine. Rule number 5, unleash the Kraken. Surprise your foes with perfectly timed attacks. Aim true and watch your enemies shatter. Rule number 6, torpedo alert. Spotting incoming torpedoes is a lifesaver. Keep your eyes on the water and dodge those little wakes. Turn towards the torpedo to maximize your chance of being missed. Patch those leaks is number 7. Use your abilities to repair and keep your ship afloat. You must learn to triage damage control, prioritizing what is important and when to apply damage. If your engines are down and you're in trouble, you need them fixed. If your guns are down but you're out of direct combat, they maybe can wait. And last but not least, rule number 8, safety first. If the odds are stacked against you, maintain a safe distance, extract yourself through defensive maneuvers, and let your long-range firepower do the talking. Okay, so we've got all that down pat. We've got a bunch of rules, we've got a bunch of principles to work with, so how can we apply that to the game? Well, one of the biggest things that's hard to deal with is the transition between ship classes at the battle ratings. For example, frigates into destroyers and cruisers territory. So today what I thought I would do is take you out on a full game in a full up tier in a frigate, and I will show you how to apply those principles to a battle and still win. With all that said, let's jump into a game and cause some chaos. South Africa, here we are. Right, let's have a look at the battle rating and see if this will be a good video for showing an up tier battle and what to do. Alright, so it looks like we're at 5.3, full up tier. 4.3 I am sitting at. I'm going to take the frigate. The frigate's job is to clear the coastal waters and to keep the airs safe. We do have a capital killer weapon in the form of the Bofors anti-submarine rocket, but that is more of a last ditch, you know. Oh my god, there's a cruiser there, shoot him. Alright, we've sighted some coastal boats, so our first role is to clear the coastal boats. Once we have secured the coastal zones, we'll try and capture, and then our role will shift to harassing destroyers and cruisers if we can, and assisting the destroyers where our team destroyers where we can. I'll just feed a bunch of shells all through the different ranges here, hoping one hits. They should all land just in front of him. Take a bite of my Vegemite sandwich while I wait. I'm liking those, they'll get close I think. Yeah, there we go, we've got a MS-15 Italian PT boat. Down. Project 206. See, I'm glad I didn't take mine because we probably would have killed each other. But now that I'm in the frigate, I can just finish this fellow off, as long as I get the shots right. And then we're going to assess where this battle's at, because with us being at 5.3, there is a few ships that we're likely to see. We could see a American heavy cruiser. We could see American destroyer leader and OP light cruiser, the Atlanta, which would be brutally deadly to us. We could see the Soviet Krasnys. Yeah. Here we go, we've got a light cruiser already within 7 kilometers. Now, if this is an early war cruiser, such as a German cruiser or a casemate cruiser, then we should be fine to harass them. Got a high stack on it though, it's sitting pretty high out of the water. Oh shit, it's an Atlanta. Alright, so this is a direct counter to us. The Atlanta is a very, very dangerous threat, so we are going to move to defensive stations. We're going to abort our move to Alpha Point. We'll put a little bit more fire out here on the Atlanta. But we do not want to get into a direct engagement with him. And I'm also running the risk of, and it looks like an Omaha class light cruiser accompanying the Atlanta. So we will harass the light cruiser because our high explosive armament is fairly large and we can do a lot of damage to these exposed, fairly unprotected cruisers. Theoretically, we could kill the Atlanta if we got extremely lucky, but I'm not willing to try that. And so here, one of our friends in the Moffat is engaged with what looks to be a gearing or a Frank Knox. So we're going to move to harass him and also support him from any other danger. It looks like he's taking fire from the Atlantas. I'm actually going to abort. This is extremely dangerous for me. So what we're going to do is we're going to withdraw. We'll move to more of a defense in depth style strategy. We will let the cruisers move towards the alpha point and we will retreat behind this island. We'll fight any other, oh, I'm going to keep turning towards this island as much as I can to minimize my line of sight on those cruisers that are just absolutely hammering them off it. We are taking fire from the gearing secondaries, I think. Oh, now we're taking 5-inch fire. My Moffat friend is getting obliterated. Got someone behind the island here. We'll put some suppressing fire on them. But our goal is to stay alive as much as possible, causing maximum damage for our value as a frigate. Got to keep the guns cool as well. They tend to overheat, so I'm using measured bursts of about 4 to 5 rounds each time. Alright, we're getting to safety now. We'll be out of direct danger. We are the lead element in our formation, and that's probably not a good idea for a frigate. Trying to get more shots on this Frank Knox. And we are almost disengaged. We are safe from this threat. Now we just have to make sure no one hits us from our 6 o'clock. Not too bad. So we are going to extract and we're going to reposition and see if we can put some harassment on possibly the cruisers and anyone else that's hiding. Does look like are we taking fire? That is the Omaha, or a Trenton, possibly a Trenton or a Raleigh. Can't tell from the paper doll. Slight difference in armament. One has AA, the other doesn't. And so our high explosive shells are fairly effective at keeping this guy on fire and destroying his casemates. We're going to extract. No one has pushed any of the capture zones yet, so there's no real pressure for me to be super aggressive. And it looks like we have a Spokane class destroyer. Knowing that it's an event, it's probably a Blagorodny, but I also can't tell from that distance. Thankfully, it's not a Bravi. It was a 2-turreted destroyer. There was no missiles to shoot at us. We need to finish off this light cruiser and then see about this Atlanta. I'm not sure if the Atlanta's still alive or not. But I'm going to go with the direction of travel of this Omaha class, and we're going to head out towards Charlie and see if we can't put some suppressive fire on that Blagorodny, because that's probably one of the more dangerous ships in this engagement. All the Moffats are not very scary. We are taking fire, but it looks like the Trenton, it was the Trenton, he's been destroyed, and we got the assist for that. And so we're not really just hiding behind an island. We are actively moving. We're changing positions. We're keeping an eye on the battlefield. And we're seeing how it evolves. And if anything serious... Oh, we've just... Massive damage to the Atlanta. Just did 200 crew damage. We must have detonated one of his top deck ammo racks. That was a very fortuitous hit. Put some more fire out there. That's giving me some balls now. Before we enter into this clearing here, we should have open vision over the Charlie point. So now we're at risk. Make sure to keep an eye out for everything. What have we got here? A Ubari. That's a good sandwich. Always play naval with a Vegemite sandwich. Gives hairs on the chest. Alright, Blagorodny, you are... I'm going to assume it's Blagorodny for the sake of the event. And so we're going to put out a rapid fire mission here using the ranging fire. This will alternate our two 100mm guns and put a constant stream of these shells right down onto him. I think they have about 2 kilos each of TNT, so 50 or so hits on a compartment should sink him. If the maths that I've read about compartments is correct. I've got to be mindful that once these guns heat up, the accuracy becomes atrocious, and so long-range fire is not really wise. But we are taking fire from him now, so we're going to turn away from the engagement. And this will be the first of our defensive maneuvers here. Now that he's ranged us in, he does have a Cold War rangefinder, but this is more to distract his friends here, which are going to look at us soon, I no doubt. Though his rangefinder may track us, the player itself may become bored of trying to shoot through smoke. As for every other ship, it will block the line of sight. If you're playing in a cruiser, a battle cruiser, or a battleship that has a scout plane, keep in mind that it can drop smoke screens from roughly, I think it's 180 feet above the sea level. You can deploy your smoke screen, and that is invaluable in the circle fights. You can use that to hide your ship or to break the lock of enemies long enough for them to reacquire a different target. I use it quite often in the circle fights on ships that have a scout plane. It's invaluable for the Japanese cruisers as well, though some of them don't have smokescreen on their fighters. Namely the Miyoko. So what we're doing here is the serpentine fashion, and we are retreating from the battle. Doing a little bit of defense in depth in that we are making this hard for this Spokojny to push on the Charlie point. Despite being woefully undergunned here, we just want to keep him in a constant damage state, constantly thinking about us, where he may make a navigation error and miss the capture point, or something similar to that, or one of my allies may get a lucky shot on him while he's concentrated. So we've taken a decent hit here. We're going to turn against his running and go back to another rapid fire mission here. And our goal is just to harass him to death, literally harass him. We can't kill him outright, but if I present myself as the biggest threat, then my destroyer allies with the bigger guns may have a chance of sinking him. And so what we've done here is we've just withdrew ourselves out of that cover so that we can just fight this one destroyer. If I had have continued on my path, I would have eventually drawn the attention of his friends. And so to withdraw myself, get some line of sight cover around myself, and then just target the enemy that I want to fight. Kite and fight. And so as he pushes himself towards the Charlie point, he did capture it, but now he's at a point where we will start doing serious damage to him unless he starts moving. It doesn't look like we're doing much damage, but I can assure you that this new flooding mechanic, high explosive spam, is a reality again, but not in the way that it used to, where you just instantly explode. High explosive is definitely viable for sinking ships now. It just takes a lot longer. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, because this damage sneaks up on you, and if the captain's not ready, then he may make a navigation error and overtip his ship like I did in one of my last episodes. I was flooding and I took a hard starboard turn and we tipped the ship. And it looks like I've done a fair amount of hull damage to this guy. I think I can see a list. Fairly substantial list to port. And so we don't have to worry too much about the actual game itself, like the battle as it's unfolding right now. The match itself is in our favor, and the cap zones are neutralized, so there's no ticket bleed from that. And this is my favorite part of a naval engagement, when it just focuses more on the fights. One more generous high explosive spam, and then we're going to get out there into cover. So watching the radar always as well, I can see 2 blips on the radar. He looks like he's going to sink. Sink. Like, we've been pretty stationary for a while, so I think I'm going to move on. Because the goal is not to sit in one spot. We're only sitting in one spot to get a good fire solution for a limited amount of time. Guns are overheated, so we will move on. I'm confident this guy is screwed. He's quickly taking on water. And there we go, he's down. Alright, so I guess you could call that defense in depth. We attritioned that guy to death. We withdrew, but still fought him the entire time. We let him have what he wanted, but it was at a giant cost. Alright, we're calling in the air support because as a part of our role as a frigate is to keep everyone aware of the aerial threats. There is another target, but it is friendly. This ship does not have IFF. And neither do the aircraft flying around. Alright, so we're in the lead points-wise, and we have a Yubari. Now this cruiser, it's literally a cruiser. He could prove difficult to kill, but we can still harass him. He's got fairly light armor on the turrets, as is pretty standard for the Japanese cruisers. And we will move out into cover, and out of cover rather, and try and find ourselves another target. Now, I'm pretty certain that we can get into a big fight with the rest of these destroyers. I'm interested to know what happened to the Atlanta. He never made it to Alpha Point. If someone took him out, I'm pretty proud of them. I do remember we got a fair amount of damage to him with one of our salvos. The Atlanta is actually surprisingly squishy, but you need to know where to cause damage. Lots of the top deck ready wrecks explode, and the ones on the rear of the ship, there are a lot of them. I think there are, what's it there, 5 turrets in the stern half of the ship, and all of those ready racks are very, very prone to fire. So if you keep that area on fire, a lot of times the fire goes down into the internals and blows the Atlanta up. You can also put a fire there by using semi-armor piercing or armor piercing rounds. It suffers from the same sort of weakness that a destroyer suffers from, having all of its rear ammunition with nowhere to be. Because the stern is filled up with machinery and such. And they usually sit a little bit higher. Atlanta is technically a destroyer. And the fun fact is that's why it's got torpedoes. One of the only World War II ships to have torpedoes outside of the destroyer class, and that's because it is actually technically by design a destroyer leader. Alright, so what we're doing here is I made it appear like I was going towards him, and then I hit full reverse and we drop a smoke screen. And so on his scope it looks like we're barreling towards him at full steam, when in reality we're reversing. And if he's not paying attention to his rangefinder reading, he may mistake our forward momentum. And so you dump the smoke screen and then all of a sudden you're disappearing. In a ship like this with a Cold War radar rangefinder, I can shoot through my own smoke and he can't reply. So for the ships that have those, keep that in mind. It's a very, very good tactic for keeping you alive. We will keep the reverse up for now. Our smoke will dissipate any moment. We have another air target up possibly, and a destroyer there making a push towards the Alpha point. Our team now has taken Alpha, so the game is moving in our favor. So this hasn't yet been totally exciting, but we are playing with a defensive mindset. We want to stay alive, we want to win, and so we're spreading our fire to everyone that presents themselves. We don't care so much about securing the kill, unless we can do that in relative safety. We want stacked fights, never fair fights. Fair fights always end up with a casualty. Alright, so we're taking fire now from the port side. We've got this destroyer who we lost before in the smoke screen. He's reacquired us. And now we're taking fire from the Yubari from the port side as well. So this is not ideal. We are pinned between three different fire trajectories, so to speak, all across our four-quarter. So we're going to turn away from the Yubari and put some fire on him. We've lasted long enough and we've put out enough fire that this ship is almost out of ammunition. The Bofors rocket's not quite in range. I think the maximum range is about 2.5 to 3 kilometers. But it was worth a try. Yubari's down to 10% crew. I might keep the fire up on them with my last remaining shells. We could capitalize on this kill. Destroyer is doing a fair amount of damage to us. We are pulling away. We're going to drop another smoke screen and try and put that ship on our rear. So keep turning. And the ship that's attacking us, there, we want their smoke to block them. We've taken down the Yubari. That's a good kill. Very good kill for a frigate. And so we're putting ourselves, or we're putting our ally, rather, between us and these destroyers. We want their targeting system to go, ooh, get the cruiser. If he's smart, he'll keep fighting me. But if he keeps fighting me, he risks taking cruiser fire. And so that's where you want to present your enemy with dilemmas. Give them a choice between a bad choice and a terrible choice. So we're not doing a terrible amount of damage, but our style of play, we've been able to draw fire, we've been able to dodge fire, we've been able to put out fire, and we've harassed the enemy. We've come out, I think with 4 kills. Keeping the zigzag fashion up, because every time his rangefinder updates, if my nose is pointed a different direction, he'll get a different reading. Drop another smoke, just to make that allied one really, really thick. And we should be safe for a victory. And so in an up tier, all is not hopeless. You can do relatively well, even if your ship doesn't really stack up in the meta. Now this is just frigate, destroyer, cruiser play, but this tactic and this kind of methodology is applicable across all the ship classes. There we go, 5 kills, 3 assists, 2,500 mission points. We finished my wager because I always run those. And a nice 60,000 RP, 60,000 silver lions. I'm Commander Tyrael. See you next time.